Oh man. Get Valiant episode number 108. The second appearance of Archer.
The baby.
Yeah.
If he keeps it up, he gets his own segment. So we're really excited for that.
That's going to be a huge development for us.
For him too. All he
It's a
does is
big
really
get.
just grunt, and kind of beep right now. So if he's got some opinions, I can't wait to hear him.
Yeah. It's a pretty big get though.
Hell yeah.
Um so a lot of times we come on here and I'm kind of lamenting that there's not a whole lot of news. And it seemed like a whole bunch of stuff happened this week.
There was a ton of news that happened, like all over the place.
Yeah,
Um,
especially relative to how it usually is as Valiant fans when all we get are the comics and maybe one or two little things here and there.
yeah, so it was kind of like a major announcement week with Valiant this week, where um, like it's kind of weird that like this was like overshadowed really fast. But like, so first off, Matt Klein, who came back to the company, he got promoted to be like VP of sales and marketing, which that's really cool. Good for him. He's a nice guy. I've only interacted with him online. But then like that was Monday. Tuesday saw Joe Illich step out. And it looks like the reason being is that he wants to become like a freelance editor of sorts for people's comics. At least from what I read today, it seemed like that was something that got brought up. But it's kind of a huge thing because it feels like we didn't really know the guy very well. Like he'd only been here a few months, it seemed like, because, at the beginning of the year, we lost Dinesh, and then Warren stepped away. Before Warren left, he brought in Joe Illidge, and now Joe Illidge is gone. So it is a real shock. And then Wednesday saw Robert Meyer get promoted to executive editor. So just a really weird like roller coaster week with Valiant. It's crazy. Like these kind of changes.
Yeah,
Um,
such high level shakeups. Like it's just as much as I realize on the one hand these things happen, um it's not like Valiant is the only company that has, a change in staff in their, you know, um editorials, editorial group, editorial staff. But we just had such a long time of it being Dinesh and Warren. And those were the guys steering the ship. And um, to go from having Dinesh and Warren to not only not having either of them, but also not having clearly we don't have any consistency right now, you know. Um, it's it's a tough it makes it tough. I mean, it's not like it's driving me away from Valiant as a fan. The only thing that would do that is if the comics turn to shit. But as it stands, I mean it is harder to know what to expect moving forward when things keep changing. We kind of knew what types of things we were going to get for a long time, and we knew what kind of communications we were going to get from the top. Um, but we don't know that anymore. I mean, perfect example. Perfect example. Anytime you ever saw Dinesh or any of those high level guys um, doing interviews or anything like that, talking about the company, you could just feel the passion and the love radiating off of them. We got a weird puff piece interview with Dan Mintz, the CEO of DMG, and I mean, it was like he was talking positively about the company, of course, because it's his company. He wouldn't, run around bashing his own company, but he clearly doesn't have the same love, the same passion, and you know, that's tough to deal with as a Valiant fan. That's what has been the thing that separated Valiant from everybody else for such a long time, that from the top down there was that high level of passion and love that informed all their decisions. And now we seem to have, a cold calculating businessman at the top, and that it just, again, I'm not being driven away or anything like that, but it does make me question what the future is going to be. you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw that video. It just to me it seemed like it was like a video to promote something that they have nothing to promote yet. You know, Bloodshot doesn't come out till 2020. There's zero footage to show. It was just kind of a weird piece. I don't have anything against Dan Mintz for doing it. He just seemed like a dude who was really nervous. But at the same, and that's the kind of thing about it is that like being a guy who seems like he has such a background like in acting and things like that, he just seemed like a guy who didn't feel like he didn't feel like at home in front of the camera, you know. Whereas like guys like Dinesh and Warren, they're just fans, you know, and they made a company into something cool, and they had a ton of passion that just radiated through the screen to those watching it. It was almost infectious, you know. So I don't know, man. Like it's all real weird, like in that sense. I'm hoping that like with all these changes that have happened, that we do get back to some of the characters that we're all familiar with. You know, I feel like we just went through a phase where Joe Illich and company were kind of getting like a lot of creators who, you know, the average fan may not have heard of. You know, I don't know how many people who have been reading Valiant the last 4 or 5 years knew who Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler were, or Keeney Howard, or Vita, for that matter. You know, and they're
Yeah,
all great. They're
Trini
all great
Howard.
creators, but it seemed like they were having an approach of trying to tap the creators who are starting to become like maybe the next big thing. You know, I always see Joe Illich on Twitter, you know, talking with creators, which was great, you know, because it's like, oh man, he's making those connections to bring some of these people in. You know, that's a great thing to see, you know. And when you see the people he's talking with, it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to see that person doing something with Valiant. Now we're at a point where he's gone. And nothing against Robert Meyer. He seems like a great guy. He was an intern for Valiant at one point. He's now the executive editor of the line. So he's been here for a while. He's been here a long time, since I think like 2013, if I remember correctly. So
So
he
really,
knows. So he knows the characters, and I just hope, you know, like the approach going forward is, you know, continue talking to creators. I don't. I mean, like I don't care if it's necessarily like the next big people coming up, or if it's like established pros or anybody really who just has a story to tell. You know, like to me, it's just keep the books interesting, keep me excited. I've been happy for the most part for a long time. You know, with what I read every month. It just stinks that like the books I like a lot end.
yeah.
And one other thing I just hope out of all this is that maybe a guy like Robert Meyer, maybe he's got some plans. You know, like he's got some stuff up his sleeve that's going to make these books last more than 14 issues,
But
more than
here's the thing, though. Here's my whole perspective on the oh issue stories should last forever, basically, and titles should last forever and whatever. Um, I would rather a book end while it's good and be bummed that a good book is ending than have a good book continue until it turns to shit. It's kind of that um what the fuck is that quote? I don't even remember what movie it's from. Two Face in fucking Dark Knight when he's saying like, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Like that's what I don't want from my comic books, man. Like I wouldn't want, Chris Gage has done. He did. I guess it's done now. He did an absolutely phenomenal job with Ninja K. It was a beautiful book, you know. And then it's ending. While it ended while it was still really fucking good and still probably in contention for one of the best books on the stands, in my opinion. Um, but that's a better way to go out than to say, Chris, we want you to pump out as many stories as you can, crank them out and get them in the can, and then we'll have artists, ram your scripts out and then throw the books on the stands, and it doesn't matter if they're any good because we just want a Ninjak book on the stands.
oh no,
I don't want to read that book.
I get where you're coming from with that. I mean, for me, it's just that like I want to see this company get a little bit bigger, just to the sense where they're not just like a company with less than 1% of market share. Like, I want more people reading this stuff. I enjoy it so much. I want to see other people enjoying it. At the same time, I also want them to be like, hey, we've got a great writer lined up, and this writer will be able to give you 2 years of work. It's not as much about like, say, I want that book to last a long time just because like I love long runs. It's more like with Chris Gage, it's like I wish Chris Gage could have written Ninjak for 5 years because I enjoyed it that much. I feel like I would enjoy 5 years of his work on the book. You know,
That's
that's just me.
only if he has 5 years worth of stories that are worth telling.
But if someone does have that, I hope they would have the chance to do that.
I agree. I would
Yeah.
love to get another, Venditti Exo run, or even what we got from, Kint on Ninjak, or Lemire with Bloodshot. Those are multiple year runs that were really, really good. You know, Venditti wrote Exo for what, like 4 plus 5 years almost.
Yeah. But I want that. I want more people to have that opportunity too, though. Like Lemire, if you think about Lemire's work on Bloodshot, like he had like 2.5, 3 years on the title. Hold on, real quick.
No problem. So, um, so what I wanted to talk about, I think that a really good, God damn it, Hoosier, he had to bring up Fist and Steel because I mentioned the Kent Ninjak. For
Awesome.
the most part, that run was fucking awesome. All right. um, but
Just a road
so
bump in the road. That's all.
yeah, right. But speaking of writers getting opportunities, I think one thing that I'm really excited about is this new initiative with Valiant Breakthrough, and we're getting 4 new books. We've got one that was already announced, Life and Death of Toyo Harada, that I think we're all really stoked for.
Which
Uh,
makes sense if you think about how they announced the books back in what was August or September. They announced 4 books, and we all knew about the Life and Death of Toyo Harada, but they didn't announce it. So it kind of makes sense that for this new year, new books to start the year out. That's part of it. That's the first one.
yeah. So yeah, I mean we've got that Life and Death of Toyo Harada with Dysart coming back, which I know pretty much everybody's excited about. And then we've got a list of new creators coming in. We've got Cullen Bunn going to be writing a 5 issue Punk Mambo series. We've got Dan Abnett, who has not been, he hasn't done anything with VEI. So for him coming in and doing Fallen World, a 5 issue series that looks like it's going to be set in 4002. We've got and then I guess it's not as new of a creator to Valiant, but B. Clay Moore is coming back. He wrote Savage, and he's coming back and he's going to write Killers, which looks like it's going to be a Ninjak story. Um, so I mean, these 4 books, Toyo Harada is going to be a 6 issue miniseries. Punk Mambo is 5 issues. Rye is 5 issues, and Killers is 5 issues.
Yeah, they're
So this
totally
is
going away from the 4 issue format, which I think is great. I'm glad that there's a little bit more story to tell with some of these. Just a little bit more. Um, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I feel like you got to change things around a little bit. We're so used to these smaller stories. I'm glad we're getting something a little bit bigger with these.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about having 5 issue stories. I just I just don't want something that I remember back when I was reading a lot more DC. Something that I noticed a lot was that DC would make everything be 6 issue arcs. So even if there were only 3 or maybe 4 issues worth of story, they would stretch it out to make it 6 issues. And a really good example of that was back near the beginning of the New 52 when they had that book Batman the Dark Knight, and there were a lot of Scarecrow stories in that book, and one of them was this 6 issue story that honestly was only 3 issues worth of content, and they stretched it into 6, and it made it really difficult to read. I think that could have been a really fun, interesting story if it would have been short enough. um, Now obviously I don't want writers with 12 issues worth of story to be forced to put it into 4 issues, but I also don't want it to be the other way. I don't want a writer with 3 or 4 issues worth of content to have to stretch it to 5. So as long as the writers are That's what I would say would be my preference to determine the length of an arc. If a writer has a 5 issue story, awesome. Make it a 5 issue mini or whatever, a 5 issue arc, and put that out. If a writer has, because I know that was something that Dysart had trouble with back when he was writing Valiant more commonly, was squeezing some of his stories into 4 issues. So the fact that this Toyo story is going to be 6 is really exciting because I know that he's a guy that has a lot to say. And I want to hear everything he has to say. I don't want to hear the truncated version of it. So as long as these arc lengths fit with the content that the writers are creating, I'm on board.
Oh yeah, totally. And these all look great. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
there's
do.
not one of these I'm not excited about. So one thing I really liked about this, like Punk Mambo, art by Adam Gorham. I've always liked his work, ever since he even did Dead Drop. And he's a really nice guy. Glad to see that he's still working with Valiant. Same thing with B. Claymore. Because I don't know what the deal is with Savage, and if that book's ever coming back. Nobody seems to know. It seems like it's probably not going to. Even though it had been hinted at least by him, that he did have more material. At least he had something to go with, the next step on that character. And it does, and that book does end in such a weird place that you think, oh, there's got to be more, but who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, I
I would
think
love more Savage too. I would love more Savage. One of the things that I haven't read a lot of Dan Abnett, but what I have read has been decent. So I'm excited to see what he ends up doing with Fallen World. Um, I know that some people don't like Colin Bunn very much. Um,
really,
yeah, there was some people commenting in the main Valiant Facebook group who were really upset to see Colin Bunn's name on a Valiant book.
wow,
Um,
that's weird.
yeah, but for me, here's what I think of Colin Bunn. The stuff that I've read from him isn't very like emotionally powerful in general. It tends to be a little bit more fluff. Like I think the last thing that I read from him was Venomized and Venomverse.
Yeah,
And
he worked on those.
yeah, and that was really fucking good. Venomized was awesome. That it again, it wasn't a deep emotional story. It didn't really like cut to the core, the emotional core of the character, which those stories are awesome and people like Dysart are really really good at writing those kinds of stories. But I also think that there is a place in comics for just really fun adventure stories, and that's what Venomized was. And if we get something similar to that with this Punk Mambo book, I'm 100% on board. Absolutely.
Man, all I've really read from him is I read Sixth Gun, which was really good. That came out from Oni, and then I'd read a bit of Harrow County by him, and that was really good. So I
I've
don't
heard
know.
that's really good.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, like to hear that people are like kind of down on his work is it's kind of shocking to me. Just because like a lot of that stuff that I read that I've read by him, I thought was actually just really really exceptional. It really stood out. I don't I don't read enough Marvel anymore, just because I don't really understand what's going on a whole lot. So I don't give a lot of those books a chance. So like Venomized, it looked cool. I used to have like a giant poster of it in my living room that like was in like our book box. My kids would get it out because they just loved how it looked of Venomized. But that's about all I know about that.
Oh, it
But
was so fun, man. Like that's all it was. It was fun. There was no like the internal stakes of the story made sense and it made it, like there was stuff going on, but you knew going into it that it wasn't really going to impact the broader Marvel universe, and it wasn't probably going to really even have a lasting impact on the character Venom himself. But still, as a story, it was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. It was an opportunity to see other Marvel characters as Venom, because it was basically Eddie Brock Venom interacting with Captain America Venom, Doctor Strange Venom, Wolverine Venom, fucking Spider Man as still as Venom. Like so many of these like alternate universe versions of these characters who had bonded with a symbiote, and it was just a really fun story. And they were like fighting against these universe hopping monsters that feed on symbiotes or something like that. I don't know. It was just a really fun story. And honestly, I didn't take a whole lot away from it other than that it was really fun. And I would totally go back and read it again, even
yeah,
though, again, it's not like the deepest thing ever. So
yeah,
the fact that we're getting a writer who knows how to make fun, awesome stories. And then Adam Gorham has done some of the best, most impactful covers in the history of VEI. Um, some of the shit that he's done is just beyond beautiful. And, to get him on interiors again, along with Colin Bunn, makes me really, really stoked for this Punk Mambo book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, all these books look awesome. I've had the chance to read the Ash Can of Life and Death of Toyo Harada. It's gonna be awesome.
I didn't read that. I have it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, I had to read it. It's gonna be fun. It definitely is taking everything in a really interesting direction. I thought after like that first issue finished, so that should be great. But like I said, everything looks good. I'm really excited. Like maybe more than anything, I'm actually the most excited for the fact that they're doing something with like the future storyline again.
Yeah.
Because I've talked about it enough on this podcast about how much I like 4001, 4002. I love Rye. I love all the characters in that timeline. And the thing is, like Valiant sets so much stuff in the current continuity. There's never going to be a lot focused toward that. We're never just going to see like 6 books that deal with that story, that timeline that focus on like future Bloodshot and Rye and future Eternal Warrior and War Mother and all these other characters that exist in that area. So this looks cool. I'm glad that you and I were right on our guess of what the teaser was.
The only thing I was wrong about is I thought it was La Fuente piece, and it was AJ Jotha Kumar.
Yeah, but Adam Polina is going to do the art on that,
Yeah.
and his art's awesome. I've
Yeah.
liked when he's done little segments of Shadow Man. I thought they've just looked really good. And the thing about like Dan Abnett, who's working on that book, for people who don't know this, Dan Abnett, like in the earlier mid 2000s, he was working on Annihilation at Marvel, and all that stuff that he worked on became the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So like a lot of the stuff that he did ended up being very influential for Marvel Studios. And he had a writing partner, Andy Lanning, who helped him do all that kind of work. But his work, him and Lanning's work, is a big reason why those movies go kind of in the direction they do. Because there's all that cosmic stuff he helped bring back. So to me, like I think like a guy like that, there's a ton of potential with where that storyline could go. I think he worked at Valiant in the Acclaim days. I'm not positive, but it is good to see him come to like the VEI era. Just because like I still think he does awesome work. So again, like all 4 of these books look awesome, and these are the books that are gonna like start off the year. Like we're gonna get these releases. I'm glad that Valiant did something a little bit different with their publishing initiative. Instead of waiting for like summer to begin or summer to be like halfway through to announce how the year was going to end, they're at a point right now where they're promoting stuff that's going to start the year, and they're doing a whole bunch of those books to do it. So we're not just getting an announcement of, hey, here comes EXO, or hey, this year here comes Shadow Man. It's, hey, guess what? Next year here's 4 books right out the gate, and that's great, So I mean, like I feel like I don't know like how much of this was Joe Illage, but like that's great news, That's a good thing that they did, and I'm glad that they decided to go away from the 4-issue format, as long as it makes the stories good and compelling.
Yeah. That's my caveat with the 5-issue change as well. But I would say, like, for me, I'm most excited for the Toyo book. I love Cafu as an artist, and I know it says that there are going to be some other artists on it, and I'm fine with that. But I love Cafu, so I'm really looking forward to his art, as much of it as we can get. And then I'm also the other one that I'm most excited about is actually Killers. Um, I liked what B. Claymore did with Savage. I'm loving Ninjak right now, and I'm so excited about where Ninjak is, like what his new status quo is. Um, that it just makes me really want more, no matter who's writing it. I would love to see more Chris Gage writing Ninjak, but fuck it, man. B. Claymore is a good writer. Bring him in. If he's got an exciting story to tell, I want to read it.
Yeah,
And I'm not familiar with Fernando Dagnino,
I'm not
but
either.
but you know what? I'm not going to complain. I'm definitely on board. The promo art looks cool. It's by another artist I'm not familiar with, Gray Williamson. But either way, it looks fucking cool. And the concept just says that it's a contest between the deadliest super spies on the planet competing for the ultimate prize. I have no idea what that means or what that could be, but it sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. So I am totally on board.
Yeah, and to me, like, it doesn't sound like it's trying to um, follow up Christos Gage's run, which I think is okay. Like, I don't want everybody when people come into like Valiant, I don't want them to be like, oh, I've got to follow exactly in the footsteps. Like, to me, like, the next person to write like another Bloodshot series, they don't have to pick up with like Ray in his car with his family.
Right. Yeah. Page one doesn't have to be,
Him at a gas station. I
five
don't care.
minutes later.
Yeah. So like, take some, get away from the stories that have just been told a little bit. Create your own little piece with it where you don't have to sit there and borrow so much. If they want to acknowledge the fact that like Ninjak is like a free agent of sorts, where he's not tied to MI6 anymore, that's fine. I don't expect the whole series. I don't expect those 5 issues to be all about him still trying to like, deal with MI6 and stay away from Livewire and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to happen. So I don't expect Fallen World necessarily to pick right up from where like the 4001 mini ended. Although it does kind of sound like with a name like Fallen World and the fact that 4001 ended with like New Japan crashing to the earth and people kind of settling back in on Earth, it probably does a little bit take place with them trying to gain a new understanding of like life, you know. But we'll see. I'm excited for all these. And if the thing is that would worry me more about any of these though is if Killers was supposed to be the thing that follows up Ninjak or follow up Ninja K to be precise, because I just feel like what happened in that book was so phenomenal. I don't expect someone else to just come back in and try to do the next chapter, volume 4, if you will, of like Ninja K. They don't have to do that. So
So Hoosier said Savage and Ninjak would be a killer team up. Imagine if Savage showed up in this Killers book.
oh yeah, that'd
I
be
don't know
neat.
how it would work because I don't know what the story is going to be, but that'd be fucking cool. Be a
Well, I
cool
mean,
way to
like,
backdoor Savage into more stories, right? Like kind of like how Kent's not writing or releasing a Divinity story right now, and based on some things that he said, he's probably not going to be working with Valiant, beyond his current EXO run. But you know, he's still playing with the Divinity characters and backdooring them into the wider, broader Valiant universe by bringing them into his EXO book. And I think this is something that we've talked about before. I mean, that kind of sends a signal to other writers writing future EXO stories or just other books in general that these characters are up for grabs and they're open to, bring into other stories. So I would love to see more of the divinity characters being brought into other writers' works, within the Valiant universe. Um, yeah,
and who knows? I mean, like, I think like a book like that, where with like the description of it, you never know how they could fit like a character like Savage in. If they did that, I don't foresee it happening, but it would be cool just because maybe the way that book ended would leave too much to explain with doing like a volume 2. Because that book ends basically with that him and one of the bad guys like kind of falling out of the far away, if you will. I think that's what everybody kind of determined it was, and I don't know, who knows, but for me, like, I know that like there's been a lot of talk. I can't remember who it was saying that like they believed that Fred Van Lente had another book that was going to happen, and they thought that it might have been like the 4001 book. So, and obviously that didn't happen because we got the announcement of who it was. So I'm kind of like excited too that like we'll get another book from Fred Van Lente also. Hopefully, because he does seem like he does like doing a lot of work for Valiant, and all the stuff that he does has been pretty good.
yeah, I would agree. Um, yeah, if we get more Fred Van Lente in 2019, I will be happy. Um, I would love to see more Time Walker work, but I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that he could do really well because he has done a lot of other stuff really well. War Mother is a good example. Um, but
I think that's kind of the problem sometimes with Valiant, where like there's things that it feels like they should be like getting brought up. Like something should happen that like explains like where things are going. Like Ivar is a great example of that. I think where what the hell's going on with the character? Like we saw him for like a moment in like that Armstrong one shot,
yeah,
and then we've seen Neela like a couple times, and that's it, and it just seems like they felt like a bigger part of the Valiant universe that should be explored and talked about. So it's like, when do those characters come back into the fold a little bit more than just incredibly random?
Yeah. Um, but like we're talking about kind of backdooring certain characters into stories, the last time we saw Neela, I'm pretty sure was Faith in the Future Force,
Yeah,
which was a fun story. And it was really cool to actually get some Time Walker shit going on and to see Neela again. She's a really awesome character.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, I would love to see that. Sean and Hoosier are talking in the live chat that Savage could be like if Quantum and Woody are working with Unity or anything. Well, but they're not working with Unity because they're fugitives now.
they're on the run.
Yeah. But if there's a Unity book or really any character, Exo or Ninjak, a lot of these characters could be tasked in one way or another with finding, finding these characters, finding Savage rather. Um, so something that we haven't talked about is as Hoosier and Sean are talking about, is it's not quite casting news, but possible casting choices. Because Sony apparently has released that they're looking at Dylan O'Brien to play Pete Stanchek and Beanie Feldstein to play Faith. Beanie Feldstein is Jonah Hill's sister, for anybody who doesn't know.
I didn't
Um,
know that.
oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
Jonah
not.
Hill.
I'm not sitting there with any of those people. I mean, I know
Yeah,
like John Lewis, but like the names that were in that article, I don't know who any of them are. I don't watch like I didn't see the Maze Runner or any of those movies. I haven't seen Lady Bird. Uh, so like to me, it's like I don't know who any of them are. I just know I know what they're in, but I haven't seen their work.
yeah. I've seen. I think I watched like the first Maze Runner movie, and it wasn't really my thing. But Dylan O'Brien seemed good. I think he's got the look to play Pete, so I'm down with that. Beanie Feldstein, if you like, Dinesh tweeted about it, saying obviously nothing's confirmed, but Faith fans should go watch interviews with Beanie. So I went and watched like an interview she did with Stephen Colbert, and she was talking about this movie she did, Lady Bird, and some people that she got to meet because of that. And she's like, you can just see her telling stories about meeting other famous people and stuff, and the level of like passion and excitement she has for what she's doing and the industry that she's becoming a part of. I mean, seriously, like if you take that level of passion and joy and add even the most modest amount of acting ability, boom, you've got your Faith. Like, I mean, she's exactly what I would want Faith to be. So I think she's a phenomenal, phenomenal choice.
Yeah, I like I said, I know
If
nothing
Dylan
about.
was going to be Joe Irons.
Hmm. But the thing that I think is good about that is that like I don't necessarily think that with doing like these Valiant movies, if they happen, you don't need to sit there and find like big name people unless these people are big names. I mean, like I said, I don't know, but you don't
They're
have to.
not big names; they're rising names.
Yeah, but you don't have to find like gigantic names to do these movies. Is my point.
Doesn't always have to be Vin Diesel.
Yeah, yeah, like I would hope that like there are recognizable faces to me as a film goer, like when it comes to these films, but they don't have to be. I mean, especially like with a movie like Harbinger, where there's going to be a lot of people in the movie. There's probably going to be like the Five Renegades and Toyo, and then members of like the Harbinger conglomerate. Things like that. So you don't have to have a bunch of names for everyone. This isn't like a Marvel movie where every character is somebody that you're like, oh, household name, every single person.
Right. But you'll also remember that, I mean, a lot of the people who are household names now because they played Marvel characters were not when they were cast.
That's
Chris
true.
Evans, Chris Evans was not a big deal when he got cast to play Captain America, right?
I don't know.
Robert
I'd
Downey
seen
Jr. was
a
pretty
lot
much
of
in.
stuff. Chris Hemsworth, maybe like I think like I didn't know who he was before that, but I knew like I'd seen Chris Evans in a bunch of stuff prior to him being Cap. But still, I mean, like A lot of those people though, like they were like somebody. Like I didn't know who Sebastian Stan was or
Yeah.
Frank Grillo, but
Oh, dude, Chadwick Boseman. I
I
didn't
had
know
no
who Chadwick
idea.
Boseman was.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope.
Um. Honestly, like I don't know, but the point is like you don't need to cast the biggest names in Hollywood in these movies. If the movies are good, these actors will become big names, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Hoosier Evans was in Fantastic Four, but nobody was looking at him as being, the greatest thing around until he played Captain America. And then people started looking at him as this big star and are going to follow him in whatever he does afterwards. But nobody was, saying, "Oh, that guy who played the Human Torch from that Fantastic Four movie that basically flopped. That's the fucking guy." Like I mean,
No, it
yeah.
didn't flop. The first Fantastic Four movie was quite successful.
Yeah.
It
So I
wasn't
just
great.
wanted to check into what Hoosier had said about Dylan O'Brien being Joe Irons, and that's actually not accurate. Dylan O'Brien is being eyed to play Pete Stanchek, and it's actually Noah Centineo. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but he's actually the one that's being looked at to play Joe Irons, according to this article on Newsarama that I'm looking at. Um, yes, Hoosier, I should play Armstrong. Oh no, I shouldn't. But I would love to see Armstrong in a movie. Whether it's Kevin Porter, which I'm sure it wouldn't be, but there are so many actors that I think could play him really well. If we could go back in time and get a young John Goodman, I think that'd be pretty amazing.
Just
um,
depends on the tone, I think, of the movie, or like, um, like how like buddy comedy type movie would an Archer and Armstrong movie be? Just, I don't know.
I think it could be a lot of fun.
Oh, I
Um,
hope so.
Hoosier said the Big Show for Armstrong. I mean, I don't know how much acting ability he actually has. I don't know a lot of wrestlers that are very good actors, but if he has the chops, I mean, he could possibly do it. I do think though somebody that's because the Big Show is starting to get older. You know what I mean? Like we need somebody playing Armstrong that can look about 40 for the next 15 years. That's what I think. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just excited that there's talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like we're actually hearing about possible actors to play Faith and to play Pete Stanchek. When we get closer to the Bloodshot movie coming out, if there's other stuff already in production, that's going to be really fucking exciting. What I'm waiting for is not only to see, the Bloodshot and Harbinger movies come to fruition and the purported Faith movie that Sony apparently has a script being written for. I want to see a fucking EXO movie. I want to see a Quantum and Woody movie. I want to see, there's a Ninjak movie would be just amazing. I
But
mean, there's so many
we're
of these characters.
we're getting in a cool time right now, though. We're like, if you think about it, like we're a little more than like a year away from Bloodshot, so there's gonna be like a bit of a marketing push, probably like starting in the fall. It's gonna be awesome. And now we're starting to get news of like a second movie, and that's gonna be great, man. There's gonna be a lot of like casting news that comes up, especially the movie like Harbinger, where you do potentially have a lot of moving pieces. There could be a lot of like casting news. There could be a lot of things that they bring up in Harbinger that really does sort of lay the foundation. Because they're going to establish Project Lightning Spirit within a Bloodshot movie. How much of that carries over into the next movie, who knows? But there's so much cool stuff that can happen with all this stuff, and it's really exciting. We're finally getting there with Valiant being talked about, with movies, and who knows what else. So
Hoosiers predicting a Bloodshot trailer premiere at STCC.
I've already been saying it for months, okay? But it
uh,
makes sense. It makes sense because that's like the biggest place to make a splash prior to like anything else. Like there's so many eyes upon that. It
yeah.
has to happen there. Hoosier is thinking the right way. Okay,
Such a smart guy.
he is.
So smart. That's such a smart and attractive thing to say. uh, What I'm really hoping for is that we actually get some Vin Diesel as Bloodshot photos sometime fucking soon. If I don't see Vin Diesel in costume or whatever you want to call it, in makeup, in the first quarter of 2019, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Well, we'll see.
I mean, I'll still watch the movie regardless, but
Maybe, maybe if you ask Dinesh, she can send you a picture. But you have to
yeah, oh, I'm
promise
sure.
not to show anyone, okay?
Yeah, if I sign an NDA. uh, yes, Vin Diesel with his shirt off. I thought that was a given, Hoosier. Of course, I want to see Vin Diesel with his shirt off. Why would I want to see Bloodshot with a shirt on? That's just ridiculous. So we actually have a comic to review. Maybe we should talk about that.
We do
Um,
have one.
Shadow Man issue number 10. This is what, the penultimate issue? We got one more?
Issue.
Yeah. So, okay, so I actually picked up my comics on Wednesday this week, which is sheer insanity. I almost never do that anymore. But I got this cover. I don't know how well you can see it, but I really like this cover of Sandria. I think
I did.
Sandria is such a cool character.
I agree. It's a very nice cover. It was my favorite one out of all of them for issue 10. I did not get a chance to pick up books. I haven't even left my house really for like a couple days. So
Yeah,
I didn't get my
that'll
issue
happen.
yet. But yeah, definitely. I think that cover is the best one. That's my favorite of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the A, and it's really fucking awesome. I'm actually
Yeah.
looking up the other covers right now. I want to see. I didn't look a whole lot at what other covers were available because the shop that I go to really only ever gets the A covers. So I'm just kind of taking a look at what other covers were out there. Um, so I'm just trying to, and of course my computer's going to be stupid. So there was, what do we got? Who is this? Karen Grant did a cover of Sandria with like a whole bunch of like burning skeleton demon looking things behind her. And that looks pretty fucking cool. I hadn't seen that cover before. I might have to track that one down because it looks fucking awesome. Um, there's one with Alyssa that looks really cool. I really like her as a character too. And I want to say that one's by Sana Six, which I don't know what it seems like a company name. I'm not familiar with that artist. Um, and then there's also the interlocking variant by what is it, Ryan Lee? That's pretty cool. That one's probably my least favorite, honestly. The Alyssa cover is really nice by Sana Six, and I would say my favorite is a toss up between the again, I'm going to butcher this name, Tonchi Zanzik. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that name, and I apologize. Um, but that cover is absolutely phenomenal, the one that I have. And then, like I said, that other one by Karen Grant, I'm not sure. That one looks really fucking cool. So, yeah, two really, really awesome covers on this, and the other two covers are pretty cool too.
Yeah. So, going into this issue, um, I felt pretty good about this one personally. Like I thought that like even though the book's ending, I think that like Diggle has really like ramping up like the action and the plot really well. I thought the pacing on this issue was really great too because like it felt like a lot was kind of going on in this issue. So, you know, people who listen, we go into spoilers on these, so I would hope that by now you've read the book. But like, within this issue, Sandria steals the Loa from Jack.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times, and I brought this up sometimes when I come to how I like pacing within the Valiant universe. If something like that happened, it would be a few issues. It might be a story arc, before you would see the character get it back. And even within a book like this, where we know that the next issue is the last issue, I even had like kind of a thought in my mind where I was like, what if like the series ends and Jack isn't with the Loa, just a way to shake up the character for the next time that we see him again. So I thought that was a kind of a cool touch at the end when, uh, you know, the Loa, the mirror that has sucked out the Loa is broken. It enters back into Jack. He's preparing for like his big fight with Sandra Dark. I thought it was a really nice touch. Another thing I really liked about this issue is just how great Alyssa is as a character, because I feel like this whole run has really shined an important light upon her as a character. She hasn't just been baggage or a girl for Jack to rescue the whole time. She's very assertive. She's a very positive character. She's a
Fuck
badass
yeah.
in this character. She's a badass in this character in this issue.
Oh, she saves his
So
ass.
yeah. So I just loved where it was going, and I just think like hopefully the next time they do Shadow Man, if it's something next year, if she shows up like saying Punk Mambo, just whatever like happens with like this cast, I hope that they still think of using Alyssa as like a pretty powerful character in her own right.
Yeah. I totally agree. I really like that you know, I think she's been handled really well. I think it makes sense the way Diggle has kind of approached her as um she was kind of left behind to fend for herself because the abettors were basically non-existent and Jack was stuck as the magpie in the dead side. So, she kind of had to take care of her own shit and she did a really good job. She fucking handled it. And so Jack comes back and she's not a damsel in distress like you said. She's not somebody that Jack needs to save. She's an equal partner for him, and I think that makes more sense and is more interesting to read. So I'm really happy about that, and I really want to see, um, yeah, like you said, if they do more Shadow Man after this, I want to see her character continue. But
I
what I
think
what
I think this is where like if you look at like where comic books are going right now, where there is a big push to not showcase women as like a damsel, to make them like on equal footing with like the hero sometimes. This is a great example of how it works really well.
Well, see, and
She
I would even say, regardless of the fact that I do like that both Sandria and Alyssa are handled in a way in this issue that doesn't make them different because they're females. They're not weak or
yes,
whatever. They're both very powerful, strong characters. But even taking the gender part of it out of the equation, just looking at the fact that instead of giving something that's been kind of a trope in comic books in general is having the hero and then their not quite as competent sidekick, right? Like Batman has a boy running around next to him, and we've got characters that have the bumbling. I mean, even Quantum and Woody. Quantum is the serious, competent, qualified superhero, and Woody kind of tags along and fucks everything up. So that's a pretty common thing in comic books. So I think I like the fact that in this, it's two awesome, strong, powerful characters who have different abilities and different perspectives handling situations in the way that makes sense for them and working together. When one of them gets in a bind, the other tries to help. And I also love the fact that Alyssa was able to get herself out of the kind of mind fuck that she was in, grab that dude's head, and then go bust up what Sandria was trying to do with Jack. I thought that the whole thing was handled really well. I love Sandria. I really like how Alyssa's being handled. And the thing that I think is the most exciting to me about this entire issue is the fact that, and possibly about this run as a whole so far, is that we finally got Jack and the Loa truly working together as partners. It's not bound to him because of his bloodline anymore. He's a partner with this Loa, and I think that is going to make them both stronger, and it's going to be a lot more interesting moving forward instead of having Jack be the whiny little bitch who just wants to get rid of the Loa and get rid of the burden.
so um the only like negative I really had about this issue is again, Renato Gaitis is just such an incredible artist that Eric Battle, who I think did the other pages within this, he's just nowhere near like what Renato Gaitis is doing. And at times I just found that I just did not like even like looking at those pages. They to me it's like he's not a bad artist or anything like that, but it's just such a bad pairing.
Yeah,
Having those two art styles, they don't work very well together
they're
within
definitely
a
clashing.
single
I
issue.
totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like if you had say um, Joe Bennett, who I believe it was, who did the last Exo Manowar run under Robert Venditti. If you would have mixed those two artists together, that guy's art doesn't look negative. I feel like both those styles would complement one another. Although there's a possibility that they might look too much similar. It's just that here, I mean, like I think a lot of artists really just you can't pair them with Renato Gaitis. I think that within like say Harbinger Wars 2, having his work and then like Tomas Giorello, that works better. You know, Tomas is far like his style just is so different than a lot of other people. When you have two different styles like that, they work within a single issue. Here, it just didn't work for me. But that's really my only negative. Well, that and the fact that the book's going to end in one more issue. So I thought again, you know, like Shadow Man has been the second best book under Valiant. With and the only book that was better was Ninja K. Ninja K's gone, and now Shadow Man gets to be the number one book for like 2 months.
Yeah, and then it's going to be done. Um, no, I do agree with you. I think that the contrasting art styles don't really fit. For me, this is a really fun, strong issue, though. I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5 on this. I think it's a good issue, and I think that it's definitely something that people should be reading. If you're into any kind of like magic, if you're into, I mean, there's so many bases covered by this that I think that a lot of people would really, really enjoy this book, and that's the biggest bummer about Valiant's market share is that there are so many people who I think would love these stories that just aren't getting exposed to them.
Yeah, and this is a title that really feels like it just did not come out the gate with the sort of fanfare and pizzazz that like a book like say Bloodshot or Exo Manowar would have. Even though this is like one of those classic characters, and again, everybody's always saying that we need to have all these classic characters out there, me included. So I felt like I've always kind of felt like this book just wasn't going to last very long, which is unfortunate because it's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Valiant will put this in a deluxe edition at some point. Whether they combine it with Rapture or with the Race Remord one shot, I don't know. But there's a lot of good Shadow Man stuff out there. Maybe not that, but this has been great. I mean, Diggle knows the character. He does really compelling, like supernatural stories. He probably got to work on a lot of that stuff with when he did Hellblazer. He does these kind of stories right. So
Yeah.
it's a shame, that after this, that's it, But hopefully he sticks around in some capacity. So I
No,
think he's
I'm
doing
I'm totally with you. I would love to see him continue writing for Valiant, whether it's Shadow Man or something else. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think this has been a good book. I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends with the next issue. And I mean, obviously, we've also got more titles to look forward to after this is done.
I will say this. I hope that the book doesn't end with like Shadow Man on the run, because that'll be a really weird thing with Valiant's ongoing titles ending, where Quantum and Woody ended, Quantum and Woody are on the run. Ninja K ends, Ninjak is on the run. Come on, don't do that with like Shadow Man, where he's on the run from someone. Just give him like a decent ending.
Now, hopefully, they defeat Sandria and
He's
destroy
on the
Master
run from the
Arsenal.
dead side. No, don't do that.
Yeah, but looking to the future, we have, the last 2 weeks we've only gotten one book. Next week we're getting 3 books coming out.
Oh, are we really?
Yes, we're going to be getting Bloodshot Rising Spirit #2, which I am absolutely fucking stoked for. I cannot wait. I
Cannot wait.
absolutely what?
Cannot wait.
Yeah, cannot. I loved the first issue. It seriously was amazing. I can't wait for this next one. And then we're also gonna finally get Livewire #1 coming out. Josh and I have both already read this issue, so it's gonna be awesome to finally get a chance to really talk about it. Um,
It'll be another reason just to reread it.
yeah. Oh, I'm totally rereading it before we do the next episode. And then we're also going to be getting Exo Manowar 22, which will be the last issue of this current arc. I don't remember the name of this current arc, but Agent maybe. It's been really good though. This has honestly been the best arc of Kent's run, in my personal opinion, and I'm really excited to see how it ends. And the next issue or the next arc coming out after issue 22, so starting in 23, is going to be the hero arc, which, according to what I've seen, is going to include those bounty hunters that Arik fought off back on Gorin.
Yep. I know, and like, I just feel like we're getting those stories that we should have been getting. I know like a lot of people really like Kinsrun, and I like it. I don't love it though, but I do feel like these last. I would even say that the storyline before this one, the one that was like a story set in the past. I've really enjoyed those stories. So if Kent is getting ready to leave soon, I hope it's not on the after the next arc, just because I feel like I'm really enjoying Exo Manward finally, so much so that like it's this is exactly what I like. These are stories that feel very reminiscent of all the EXO stories that I really enjoy. So stay around longer, please.
Sean pointed out that, like you were saying, Quan and Woody are on the run, Ninjak is on the run. Um, he also pointed out that Faith is technically on the run still. She's on the lam because she's
Livewire's on the
wanted for
run
murder.
too. Everybody's on the run.
Livewire is on the lam. Everybody's looking for her. Technically, Bloodshot in the present, Bloodshot Salvation ended with him kind of going off into hiding, essentially.
I'm sure Pete
Um,
Sanchek and Toyo and all those everybody in the Valiant universe is sought after.
they're all in hiding, which is ridiculous. But
Except
no,
for
I'm
Arthur and
really excited.
Armstrong. They're probably just hanging out somewhere.
I'm really excited for next week. This is, like I said, I mean, we're getting the last issue of my favorite EXO arc so far, from Kinsron. We're getting Livewire #1, which, since having already read it, this is going to be the new best book on the stands as far as I'm concerned. And close second to Livewire for me is Bloodshot Rising Spirit, which has been, that first issue was so good in my opinion. I'm really looking forward to this next one. I love this idea of going and doing this prequel story with Bloodshot could have either been really dumb or really, really good. And to me, it's turning out really well so far. So I'm really excited to see how the story continues and, what we get for the next 7 issues, I believe.
Yeah, well, that'll be a fun week, and then I don't know. Then we get Christmas break, right?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. What, where A&A? Are Archer and Armstrong on the run? They're not on the run, are they?
No, the last story was them drinking in Armstrong's vault.
Yeah, hanging out with Ivar.
Gilad's not on the run.
I mean, I guess
Ivar's captured. The Immortal Brothers are not sought after,
those are
except by
those are the only ones that aren't on the run right
yeah.
now.
I
Oh
don't think
man.
anybody's after Tama the Geomancer either.
Oh, I can't wait for Incursion, man. Like, that's going to be starting up fairly soon. I think that'll be really cool with Tama and Galad. So I don't
Yeah.
know. There's a lot to look forward to right now.
Oh,
Um,
especially after the news of this week, I do feel like even if you're like a grumpy fan who hates everything that's going on right now, and the Valiant comic fans page on Facebook seems to have a few of those people. I just
yeah,
feel like right now there's a lot to be like excited for. So try not to be so grumpy. Be excited for what's going to happen. And if you're such a fan, buy the books. Because this does totally feel to me like if you're one of those people that's like listen to the fans, well, you're getting characters that fans ask for. You know,
yeah. People have been asking a lot to get more Rye. We're
yeah.
finally getting a 4002 AD book.
Oh yeah.
We, yeah. So I'm totally with you 100%. We've all wanted to see Dysart come back. We've all wanted to know what's going on with Toya. We're getting that. I think Punk Mambo is a character that a lot of people like. A lot of us have loved Ninjak books recently, so getting more of him. All of this seems like really, really smart moves, giving
Well,
us stories that,
and one last thought I have about this is like, I mean, I can't remember who said this, but somewhere it was said that there's supposed to be like 18 brand new #1 books, whether they're ongoing or miniseries. They're going to happen next year.
holy
And
shit.
I don't know if that's true or not. I'm trying to remember where I heard this quote from because I heard it, I saw it pop up on one of the pages this week again. And if that's the case, that's 18 things to be happy about, because I'll tell you right now, the first four I'm really excited about.
Yeah,
So,
totally with you.
yep.
Well, I want to say thanks to Hoosier and Sean for hanging out with us pretty much the entire episode. That's really awesome. We always love having you guys around and anybody else that wants to hang out
Oh,
during our
yeah.
live episodes.
And, and if you like us, go check out Hootie TV, because those John Hoosier does a lot of great stuff on there. Big Bald Moose is on there with him too. I mean, they do a great show. Check them out, man. Support their Patreon. I have to do that at some point. So you should do it before I do. Everyone.
Sean's still talking smack on Forgotten Queen, saying he's not sure which fans were asking for Warmonger. But if it's a good story, then I think everybody will be happy. So
I don't that no, he's got a point on that one. I don't think anybody was like, hey, do that
no.
story. But if it's good and I enjoy it, I can't complain, man. Like
Well, I actually read.
there's a lot of
I
things
actually
that
read my.
I didn't ask for that if they give it to me and I like it, then it's cool. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Or
like
like
I actually read my physical copy of Shadow Man, and it had a preview of Forgotten Queen #1 in it, and it was just like 5 pages or whatever. But it looked really cool. I kind of just skimmed it, but the art looked really awesome. And
it's
the
in the digital
concepts.
copy too. It's in the
Huh,
that one is that actually is in the digital copy this time. That
nice.
preview. So yeah, the art looks great. There's not enough of the story to really comment on, but it looks like it'll be fun. So
Yeah, it looks like. I think it's a cool concept. Definitely looking forward to seeing what it'll be. Again, thanks, Sean and Hoosier, for hanging out with us, and thanks to anybody else watching or listening. Um, Signing off, I'm Eric Baumgard,
I'm Josh Rathbun.
and I hope that you all stay valiant and don't forget that queen.